Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, 14th verse. Very nice, important verse. Daivi esha gunamahi mama maya duratyaya mame vayi papadyante mayam etam tarantite. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So, okay, first we'll complete the purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirm this as follows: Mayam tu Prakritim Vidyan Mainam tu Maheshwaram. Although Maya illusion is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the supreme personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. Svetashvatara Upanishad 4.10. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood that the conditioned soul is tightly tied by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release a conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order his insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. The words Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnations of Rajoguna, passion, and Tamoguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya, therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Vetashvat Upanishad 3.8, confirm this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says Mukti Pradhata Sarvesham Vishnu Evasa Samshaya. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Om Gyanatimindasya Gyananjanashalaka Chakshurunmlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manavishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupadayam Dadati Swapadantika. Hare Krishna. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रेस्ताय भूतले श्रीमते संकर्षण दास अधिकारी नामिने नमो प्रभुपाद अनुग प्रेम मूर्ति कृपत्मने गौर देश विकसात उत्तम भक्ति वाशने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रेस्ताय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिने नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, yes, material energy, like we generally we have read in Sri Prabhupada's books that material energy can be categorized into three parts. What is that? Of course, two parts also, somewhere it's mentioned, three parts also, we'll understand that. So when we say three parts, that is the material, the uh, spiritual energy, the material energy, and the marginal energy. When we say two parts, we can categorize them into spiritual and the material energy. Spiritual energy is Parashakti, and the material energy is Aparashakti, and the marginal energy is Tathashta Shakti. Or also we can say the material energy is also called Bahiranga Shakti, and the spiritual energy is called Antaranga Shakti, and the marginal energy is the Tathashta Shakti, that is the living entities. So, this divine energy of mind. So, here in this particular verse, Krishna is talking about the material energy, because just in the previous verse, if we see 7.13, Krishna mentioned about how in this material world everybody is deluded by the three modes. So he's talking about the material world, especially here in this to 7.14, he's telling, when he says this Daivi Yasha Gunamai, so this divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature. Three modes of material nature means this material energy, is referring to this material energy. And this material energy, he is referring it as divine energy of mind. So for Krishna, there is nothing called spiritual or there is nothing called material. Everything is spiritual for him. Everything is divine. Whereas how we are using it, that determines how the living entity is utilizing that energy. It determines whether it is categorized as material or spiritual energy. If just like this system, laptop, phone, all these gadgets, or these things are material, it seems to be a part, it is a part of the material, it's made of matter, it's made for material purpose, but now because we are using for spiritual purpose, it is being spiritualized. So it depends upon how we use the material energy or the matter, that whether it will fall under the material category or the spiritual category. So this material energy also is divine energy of the Lord, and is difficult to overcome because it is energy of the Lord. It's being he is the controller of this energy. So we cannot overcome, living entity cannot overcome by one's own endeavor. But how to overcome then? If we cannot overcome, how do we overcome that? The material energy, the three modes, by surrendering to the Lord. So Sri Prabhupada many times gives this example in his lectures, that if in a jail, and I have heard from Gurudev Gurumata also, that if in a jail, the warden of the jail is there, the warden of the jail is like Durga Devi. And the prisoners, that is we living entities who wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna, and therefore we are in this material world, and this material world is a material is like the prison. And if um, some higher officer, some maybe the president, prime minister, comes to visit the prison one day, and he observes that some prisoners have greatly improved. They have given up all their bad habits and everything, and they are very civilized and very nice. So sometimes, even before their imprisonment is completed, I mean, whatever sentence, whatever time of punishment they were supposed to go through, even if even before it is completed, he may seeing the change in a particular prisoner, the president or prime minister may excuse him and may ask the warden to release him before his um, before the completion of his uh, you know um, sentence, or before the completion of whatever time he was supposed to be in the prison. So that is some special mercy of the prime minister or president. They have the power to cut short the days of imprisonment. So similarly, the supreme lord is actually the controller of the material energy, and therefore material energy is conducted, I mean, it's taken care of, or material world is taken care of by the warden, which is Durga Devi. And so anyone who surrenders, so it's actually difficult, it's not possible to overcome the material energy by one's own endeavor. So how to overcome it? Just like this example we saw right now, if we surrender, if the living entity surrenders to Supreme Lord, no, when one becomes a devotee of the Lord, then Krishna can order Maya Devi or the material energy to release this particular living entity from the three modes, or from her clutches, and material energy will do that. So first of all, we have to, what is our part? Our part is to obey the instructions, surrender to the Lord. And surrendering means what? Obeying the instructions, to follow the instructions. What Krishna wants, what is he mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita, that is what he wants, and we are supposed to follow these instructions. Hmm? And he comes, he doesn't just give us the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and that's all. No, he comes in the form of Paramatma. He sends his confidential servitor, the spiritual master, hmm, to guide us towards in this direction, how to do it, how to become a devotee. And he himself also comes as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in the purport, Sri Prabhupada very nicely mentions that even yes, the when we were talking about Tathashta Shakti also, the Tathashta Shakti or the marginal energy is also a part of, is also spiritual. We are not material, though this body which we have got right now is material, but we are also spiritual. We fall under the spiritual energy. We are spiritual beings, qualitatively one with the Lord, and quantitatively, of course, we have a difference because the Lord is like infinite and we are like infinitesimal. So, but though we are divine, then somebody can ask, or somebody can think, okay, we are divine, then why we are under the three modes? It's because we wanted to enjoy separately from the Lord, and therefore we have fallen into this material world, and we are now covered by the three modes. We are covered by all these contaminations in the material world, and we are practically completely under the control of the three modes unless we actually take to Krishna consciousness seriously. And so, and therefore one cannot overcome its influence, Mm, because it's energy of the Lord, one cannot overcome by one's own endeavor. And then Prabhupada is mentioning here that how the material and spiritual natures are actually the emanations of the Supreme Lord. In other verses also, Krishna says that all these energies, which is divine, I mean, material, spiritual, material, everything is coming from me. Another verse is like, pearls are strung on a thread. Nobody knows me, but actually, I am the actual principle of everything what is existing. So this material and spiritual energies are eternal. So one can question material energy, how is it eternal? So yes, it is eternal, but it's transient. Transient means what? It is temporary. It's not permanent, it's temporary, but it's eternal. For example, we see that there is creation happening, and then at annihilation, at the time of annihilation, everything is goes into the transcendental body of Mahavishnu. And when again he exhales, again the creation happens. Material creation, everything is come into um, is actually comes back in from the when the Lord exhales in the form of Mahavishnu. When he exhales, all the material existence again it seems to be getting created. So it is eternal. It's just that so for some time it is manifested and sometime it remains unmanifested, but it is eternal. So the living entities belong to the superior energy of the Lord, but now we are contaminated and therefore we are in illusion. And the illusion is also eternal. Why? Because we are in this material world from time immemorial. We cannot practically give a date that okay, from this moment this particular living entity fell down. No, we are there in this material world from time immemorial, and therefore we cannot trace back what time we fell into this material world. And so these conditioned souls in the material world are actually called as Nitya, Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace the history of his becoming conditioned at at a certain date in material history. So his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will. So and therefore the living entity cannot overcome. So material energy itself is inferior, but the living entity is superior. Is comes under the spiritual energy, but because material energy is conducted by the will of the Lord, so the living entity cannot overcome the modes of nature. However, there is a way to overcome that. We will see that, but before that, Shilpapa is explaining something else here. Guna means rope, and it is to be understood the conditioned soul is tightly. Guna also means qualities, but here Prabhupada is mentioning that it also means rope, and so in this context, what is it trying to say? The conditioned soul is very tightly tied by the ropes of illusion, no material illusion. And it is just like Prabhupada gives an example. If I tie your hands and legs, huh, you cannot help yourself. You cannot rescue yourself. You need somebody who can rescue you, whose hands and legs are free, and they can untie the knot or something and rescue you. Or somebody is drowning in the ocean, so somebody else who is out of such drowning state, who is either who is not, if I'm drowning in the ocean, somebody else also is drowning in the ocean, so I cannot help that person or he cannot help me. So if somebody else is there who is not in that drowning state, they can help us. Who is beyond that drowning state, they can help us. So and that person who comes to rescue us is a spiritual master. So, when a living entity is sincere to know about the Lord, to overcome the modes of nature, then the Supreme Lord is seated in our heart as Paramatma. So, he makes arrangement that we come in contact with a bona fide spiritual master. Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jiv Guru Krishna Prasrate Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, one gets this seed of Bhakti Lata Bij. Bhakti Lata Bij. So, without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. So, devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such a release. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. So, by Krishna's causeless mercy, he can order material energy to release a particular conditioned soul, one who has surrendered to him. Also, the Prabhupada mentions out of his paternal affection for the living entity, because he is the Supreme Father, he's actual Supreme Lord. For we are all coming from, we are all emanations from the Supreme Lord, so we are all his beloved children. So, out of that paternal affection, also he can, release a conditioned soul from the clutches of material energy. Thus, therefore, surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord is only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. Mukunda, the giver of liberation. The actual liberation is what? Becoming free from these modes of material nature. Then Srila mentions in the last paragraph that the word Mameva is also significant. Mam refers means unto Krishna or Vishnu, not to some demigod. Do you remember the 10 offenses which we chant in the morning? 10 offenses to the holy names. So there, one of them is not to consider names of the demigods, even Brahma or Vishnu, Brahma or Shiva to be equal to Lord Krishna. That is an offense actually against the holy name. So they are great personalities, Brahma and Lord Shiva and all, but they're not on the level of not is equal or greater than Lord Krishna. No one is equal to or greater than Krishna. Because they are incarnations of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, and they cannot give liberation to conditioned soul from the three modes, because they also get influenced by these modes because of the contact with them. You know, in other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Lord Vishnu, Krishna or Lord Vishnu, who is the master of Maya, is beyond the clutches of the modes of material nature, and therefore he can give liberation to the conditioned soul. Freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. So even Lord Shiva says Mukti Pradata Sarvesha Vishnu Evasa Samshaya. So there is no doubt that Lord Vishnu is actually the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Only Lord Vishnu can give liberation to a conditioned souls. Even he cannot give liberation. So Vishnu or Krishna can only give liberation, can only can only by his order only material nature will free the conditioned soul from her clutches. Okay. So we will close now. If there are any questions or any comments regarding this topic, we can take that, we can discuss on that, or else we will close now. Hare Krishna.